Good evening to one and all. Welcome you all to the Daily Indian Express newspaper analysis for the date 17th November 2023, brought to you by Ganesh AS Academy. Okay, let's get into the today's newspaper analysis. So mentioned here are the list of articles which we are going to have the analysis in the upcoming slides. So have a look at it. Okay, let's get into the today's newspaper analysis. India and the US-China truce. So the news is related to the implication for India with respect to the San Francisco summit which was held between US as well as China, and how the news is related to examination is under prelims it is linked with a subtopic called current events of national as well as international importance. Similarly under mains GS paper 2 international relation under a topic called effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest and India diaspora. So let's have a look into the explanation as well as the other perspective with relation to the summit which has for India. So variation in the US-China relationship will have a implication in not only in the not only to India but also the overall world. The meet does not produce any substantiative results, but it showed that both the countries wanted to cool off their heated trade-off and other things which have been going on for the past 3 years. And for India, it is from India's perspective, India need to have an eye on the relationship because the developing relationship between US as well as China will have impact on the formation of the rules on artificial intelligence in global arena. So this is what the thing with relation to AI is about. For that, India need to have the follow up on the closeness of US and China in terms of the technological aspects. And then in terms of Indo-Pacific, India need to monitor the outcome of the US-China from here onwards, because even though the no breakthrough as achieved in it, but it ensured that they both could able to normalize the ties from here on. And what Xi Jinping want from US is that US wanted to stop intimidating in the Taiwan's politics. At the same time, what US wants is that Beijing should not use its force to reunite the Taiwan with its mainland. So this portion, that is, this is the dispute which hasn't been solved and which is the major fulcrum for the conflict between US as well as China. And during the meeting, the China was muted from the tone. See, the Xi means Chinese president. What he has said is that he has reassured Biden that China has no intention to surpass or replace the US as dominant power in the world. So from the tone itself, we could able to see that the China is right now toning down itself so that the economic sanction made by US as well as other US allies country, and at the same time the trade war between US as well as China had negative implication in the Chinese mainland in terms of slowdown of economic growth. Which in turn culminated into toning down of the voice of China in this summit from this statement. And at the same time, it is pointing out to the success of US in setting a term of engagement with China. Previously, China doesn't want to form a terms of engagement with US, but with agreeing to form a terms of engagement with China, now US has slight appearance in terms of the summit. And what is the term of engagement which they have decided to form is the high level political and military communication between the countries has been established through this summit. And this is one thing. And at the same time, even India need to have eye on US-China relationship from the perspective of the artificial intelligence, global governance, and at the same time, in near term, the Chinese as right now wooing the US business officials to pull their investment into their mainland, because aftermath of the pandemic as well as the Russian-Ukraine war, it led to a divide between the US as well as China, which in turn led to diversification of investment from the China by the US investors. As this is what happened in the past 3 years, and along with it, the China's economy is also, as I said, has slowed down because of its domestic as well as international thing. So China is aiming is, China wanted to woo all the US investors to pull them back to the same place where they were previously investing. So India as well as Indian investors need to closely watch this, so that India also should align with the US as well as the Western countries positively to pull the businesses that has came out from the China to India, so that they won't be going back to the China again, because China is right now trying to pull all the investors or the businessmen who came out of the China because of the pandemic, and then the US and the supply chain crisis which was happened in the aftermath of the pandemic. So this is what the thing from India's perspective is. So what US has gained, what US has some worries in terms of the last 3 years is, see, US has insisted that from previously during the beginning of the Biden term, what US has insisted is that along with the competition with the China, it need to be backed by dialogue, because this dialogue only will ensure a positive competition in the international economic arena. Else it would be slipping out of the hand, which in turn will further escalate to the other disastrous things. Secondly, US also, as I said, pressed for dialogue during its initial period of time, that is during initial Biden's administration period, which China actually opposed, because what China demanded that it wanted the US to lift the economic sanctions, but because of the toning down and after the economic slowdown in the China is right now engaging with the US, which again implies that US has an upper hand. For now, the US restriction is in place. This meeting is just a confidence building measure and no outcome has been achieved. So this is what the thing with relation to the meeting as well as the culmination to the meeting, and what are the gains that has been achieved by US in Asia in the past 3 years is, strong bilateral alliance has been established between US and Japan, Korea and Australia, and the trilateral framework has also been established between Tokyo as well as Seoul, and then US has revitalized its ties with Philippines, and then a new strategic partnership has been formed with India as well as Vietnam, and elevation of Quad to summit level, and a new forum of, that is AUKUS, has been established in Asian region by the US. This is what the positives of or the gains of US in the last 3 years in Asian region. What worries do US have is the crisis in the Europe. The US as well as the Western European allies could not be able to pull back the Russians' aggression in the Eastern Europe. And the war in Gaza, which is right now upending the regional orders which was normalized because of the US effort in terms of Abraham Accord. And these are all the worries which is right now facing US. These are all the things which made US to engage with China, so that an amicable solution in those region will be established. So this is what the thing with respect to US in the past 3 years. And what India need to do from here on is, so while it must continuously access the progress of US as well as Chinese relationship, and at the same time India need to maintain a strong relationship with both US, Russia as well as China. Since India has rised on its own in the international arena, it could able to effectively handle any shift in the global power relation. So this is what the final conclusion of this article is about. And this is what the overall analysis with respect to the news is about. So what need to be studied further is, we should know about what is the Abraham Accord declaration, which are all the countries have signed this accord. Secondly, we should also be aware of Israel-Gaza war, and then Russian-Ukraine war. And with this, we have reached the end of this topic. India, EU close to settling 600 million WTO dispute. The news is related to tussle or the dispute between India and EU in the international forum. So under the prelims, it is related to current events of national and international importance. Similarly, under mains, it is related to the effect of politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest and India's diaspora. So India is right now close to settle its dispute with the European Union, which is the second largest trade partner with India. So what is the dispute is regarding is, it is related to the high duty which has been imposed by India with respect to the ICT technologies which is being exported from European Union. And it comes after this settling down. The terms of settling down came after India settled this trade dispute with similar trade dispute with US at the World Trade Organization. And this dispute started during 2019, and the total amount that has been valued by European Union, what it is saying is that nearly 600 million euro export has been affected because of the heavy import duty which has been made by or imposed by the India. Why this import levying on on this product? Why this taxation on the import of the ICT technology is very important from India's perspective is that right now India wanted to develop this ICT technology domestically. For that only the PLI scheme has been rolled out, and because of this rolling out, the successful building up of the base for the domestic production of the ICT technology is right now picking up. And India consider this ICT technology as the strategic sector because of its ramification it could have in terms of import from the other countries from the security perspective. So to prevent as well as promote the domestic sectors from the external competition, this levying of duty on the ICT technology which is important from other countries, very important from the India's perspective. And at the same time, India also raised a concern with European Union on imposing high import charges on the steel export which has been exported from India. And because of this tussle, they both came to a conclusion of establishing the high level trade and tech council. And through this council, they will be negotiating and they will be forming an agreement which will be beneficial for both the parties. Previously, European Union formed this trade and tech council with US, and right now India is the second country to which the European Union forms this Trade and Tech Council. So it is very important from the perspective of prelims, which could be asked in prelims. To which country India has formed the Trade and Tech Council, like that question may be formed, so we should be aware of it. So this is what the thing that is related to the news. Okay, let's have a look into what does this World Trade Organization's dispute resolution body is about. See, the World Trade Organization dispute resolution body is nothing but a general council. A general council is the in the WTO there are three hierarchies. The structure will be based on the ministerial conference, which is the highest decision making body, and then the general council, and then the council for each and every sectors, like council for trade, council for goods, council for service, so on and so forth. So this is how the hierarchy, the structure will be. In this, the general council will be acting as trade policy review council, and at the same time it will act as dispute resolution body. So that is why general council convenes the as dispute resolution body. And to deal why it convenes itself as the dispute resolution body is that it will act as the dispute resolution body between the WTO members who raises the dispute, and at the same time it established the dispute settlement panel, and it will be referring the matters to arbitration, as well as adopt the panel or appellate body and then arbitration report, and at the same time it will maintain the surveillance of the implementational aspect of the report, and it will authorize suspension if the import of the body is not being the report of the body is not being implemented. Means it has the power to authorize suspension of the particular country from the body. So this is what the WTO resolution body is about. So what need to be studied further is, we should be aware of the PLI scheme. Secondly, we should also know India-EU relationship. Secondly, we should also be aware of India-UK relationship. So these are all the other things which we need to be aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. United Nations Security Council adopts a resolution calling for pause in Gaza. Gaza, for that Israel says no. News is related to the current Israel-Hamas war. Under prelims, it is related to current events of national and international importance. Similarly, under mains, it is related to important international institutions, agencies, their forums, structures and mandate. So the UNSC has adopted a resolution which what it says that since the outbreak of Israel-Hamas war, it is calling for urgent as well as extended humanitarian pauses in Gaza to address the escalating crisis for the Palestinian civilians those who are present in those regions. And out of the 15 votes, this resolution got 12 votes, and 3 countries, that is US, UK and Russia, has abstained from the voting. Why US and UK has abstained is this resolution does not condemn the Hamas or Hamas aggression. At the same time, the Russia has abstained from voting because it failed to demand the humanitarian ceasefire. That is, the resolution failed to address the ceasefire. So that is the reason why Russia has abstained from voting. Okay, let's have a look into the United Nations Security Council. According to the United Charter, it established 6 UN organs. In that, United Nations Security Council is one of the organ, and its primary responsibility is to maintain international peace as well as security. It contains 15 members. Five members are permanent members, or they are called as P5 members, and 10 members are non-permanent members. These 5 members are US, UK, France, China and Russia, and then the non-permanent members are elected for 2-year terms by the United Nations General Assembly, and it is the only UN body with authority to issue the binding decisions. The resolutions that has been passed by the United Nations Security Council is legally binding on the respective countries or the organization. So let's have a look into the United Nations resolution. So under United Nations Charter, Article 27, what it says that if a resolution has been adopted, if the resolution has been adopted, if it gains a support of 9 or more than 9 members, and at the same time it should not have any kind of veto from the permanent members. This is the thing with respect to non-procedural matters. But if the case or the resolution is coming for the procedural matter, means it can be adopted on the basis of affirmative vote by any of the 9 council members. So this is for the relation with respect to United Nations Security Council resolution on non-procedural matters as well as procedural matters. And as I said, it is legally binding on the country or the organization against which the resolution has been passed. Okay, let's have a look into the United Nations Charter. The United Nations Charter is the multilateral treaty, and it is the constitutional documents which distributes powers as well as functions across the UN organ. And it through this charter only authorizes the Security Council to take action against the thing or the situation that is going against the international peace as well as security. And then this charter mentions neither thing about binding or non-binding resolution. This is very important. It doesn't mention anything about binding or non-binding resolutions. This is what the thing with related to United Nations Charter is about. So what we need to study for this, we should know about what are all the other United Nations organs. Secondly, you should be aware of World Bank and IMF, and thirdly, you should also be aware of WTO. And these are all the other things which we need to be aware of. And with this, we have reached the end of this topic. India to host second Voice of Global South Summit today. So news is related to the Global South Summit. So under prelims it is related with current events of national and international importance. Similarly under mains it is related to GS paper 2 international relation under a subtopic called bilateral, regional, global grouping and agreements involving India or affecting India's interest. So India will be hosting the second summit of Voice of the Global Summit, and the first virtual summit was held during January this year, and it has also been hosted by India. And this summit, during the first summit, 125 global south countries have participated. And what is the objective of this summit is, it enables the global south country to share their perspectives as well as priority on the common platform. And this second summit will be focusing on the sharing of the outcome of the meetings that was held during the India's presidency in G20. And apart from the inaugural as well as the conclusion session in the Global South Summit, in the second Global South Summit, there will be 8 ministerial sessions will also be conducted, which includes 2 foreign ministerial sessions and then ministerial session each on education, finance, environment, energy, health and commerce. Ministerial sessions will be conducted respectively. And the theme for the inaugural leader session, which is going to happen, is Together for Everyone, Growth with Everyone's Trust. And for the conclusion session, the theme is Global South, Together for One Future. So this is for the details with relation to the news is about. So let's have a look into the other analytical part of the news. First, we have to look into what does this global south is about. So from the map, we could able to see that the portion that is beneath the green line is called as global south, and the portion beneath the green line is called as global north. And the countries, why it is called as global south is mainly because of the economic parameters. And why this economic parameter has came is that these countries have left out of the industrialization era. So that is the reason why they could not empower themselves into a greater economic power. So that is the reason why they have been divided according to the economic criteria. So that the portion which we have seen in the previous slide, that is the portion beneath the green line is called as global south, and the portion beneath the green line is called as global south according to the economic power. And then these countries had the conflict with the ideologies of the capitalist and the communist countries during the Cold War eras, and this includes the countries from Asia and Africa and then South America, and they formed their own ideologies which suited their own countries' governance and their need. And this is what the thing with respect to the global south is about. So what is the challenges right now the global south is facing is the supply chain. So aftermath of the pandemic and then Russian-Ukraine war, the supply chain constraint has arisen because of the concentration of industries in certain handful of countries. When these countries has been affected, or these countries have any kind of tussle within the geopolitics, means it is going to affect the supply chain. If the supply chain is affected, means then the food, fertilizers, and then the energy related supply is also affected, and this this supply chain constraint is affecting all the countries, but it is affecting disproportionately higher to the global south countries. And then energy transition, because of the climate related goals, all the countries needed to transform themselves from the non-fossil fuel based to the fossil fuel based economy, and this energy transition requires fund which the global south lacks. Thirdly, the climate change and its related negative impact is having huge toll on the global south countries. Even though the global north countries are facing the brunt of the climate change, they could able to mitigate as well as adapt themselves from the climate change, but the global south countries could not able to mitigate as well as adapt themselves from the negativities, the negative things that has been brought by the climate change. Why? Because they lack the resource that is required for the mitigation and adaptation. And then the multilateral institutions like World Bank, IMF is majorly been controlled by US as well as the Western European countries, and their structure, procedure are made in a way that it favors the global north countries. So that is the reason why India is pitching for multilateral institution reform in various platforms. So these are all the challenges right now being facing the global south countries. So what we need to study further is we should know about what is G20 and what is the recent G20 summit is about. Secondly, we should also be aware of non-alignment movement, and then we should be aware of African Union, and then the geography of the African continent as the whole. And these are all the other things which we need to be aware of. And with this, we have reached the end of this topic. RAJNATH stresses on unimpeded lawful commerce in international water. So the news is related to the 10th years ASEAN Defense Minister Meeting Plus, which was right now conducted in Jakarta. So under prelims, it is related to current events of national as well as international importance. Similarly, under mains, it is related to effect of policies, politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest and India's diaspora. So the India said during the defense minister meetings plus is about India is committed to freedom of navigation, overflight as well as unimpeded lawful commerce in the international water, and it is the 10th ASEAN Defense Ministerial meeting plus which held in, as I said, in Jakarta, and it comprises of members from ASEAN. That is, it comprises of members of 10 ASEAN countries plus India, China, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, Republic of Korea, Russia, as well as US. So, which is very important from the perspective of prelims, and at the same time, India stressed about ASEAN's centrality in terms of the regional security as well as the development in the ASEAN Southeast Asian region, and India is looking forward to engage with those kind of groupings which has political as well as forward looking and then result oriented approach. This is what the pitch made by India at the forum or the meeting. So let's have a look into the ASEAN's Defense Minister meeting plus. During 2007 second ASEAN Defense Minister meeting, which was held in Singapore, a resolution was adopted to extend the member of the ASEAN's Defense Minister meeting. So that is the reason why ASEAN's Defense Minister meeting plus was formed during 2007 by the adaptation of the resolution. From then onwards, this Defense Minister meeting plus has been conducted annually, and its aim is to promote political as well as social stability amid the rising tension across the Asia Pacific, most importantly post-colonial state. So this is what the details with relation to the Defense Minister meeting plus is about. So what are the other things which we need to be aware of is, we should also be aware of SAARC, BIMSTEC grouping, and then SCO, BRICS, and then Asian Development Bank as well as Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. So these are all the things which we need to be further aware of, and with this we have reached the end of this topic. And let's have a look into today's practice prelims question. So this is the today's practice prelims question. I want those students, those are watching this current affairs session online, please do comment the option point for the question which you are seeing right now on the board. Okay, with this we have reached the end of today's session. Thank you. Please do subscribe, like, comment, share the current affair video so that you could able to receive daily notification with relation to the Ganesh IAS current affairs and any other important session that will be brought in the future by Ganesh IAS Academy. Thank you.